Hello, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That's Sam. And welcome to the studio, Spiritbox.
Yo.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
God, you guys are really something else. Like, I don't even know where to begin because there's a lot of emotion in your music. Plus, your story's really interesting. And you're from Canada, which is one of my favorite places on earth. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's a beautiful place, isn't it?
Have you been to the part where we are from, British Columbia?
No, but I know you make great weed.
Yeah, that was our big. When weed was illegal, it was still the biggest export in our province.
Oh, yeah.
DC Bud.
Yeah, and they think we're lying when we say this, but we live not in Vancouver, but on a place called Vancouver Island, and we truly are from an island off the coast of
It's beautiful.
Canada, and you can only get there by boat or by airplane. It sounds smaller than it is. Like, it's a very big island, and there's like 1 million people on it, but you can't drive off it. You have to go on a ferry boat or a plane.
There is something to that way of life that is different.
It is. It's very isolating because you don't realize you live on an island until you're like trying to get off the island or trying to get back on the island.
Yeah, you kind of think like not having an Apple store is normal, but that's not normal. Like every other city has an Apple store. It's like, why don't we have one?
But
makes no sense.
So Michael was born there.
Mm-hmm.
I moved there when I was 15, actually, from Alabama. But I think when we were teenagers is when you really realize that, and for us especially, like discovering that we really liked going to concerts and playing music and then having dreams of going on tour, it makes you realize there's like an extra island tax that you have to pay to go do those things because it's very expensive to get off the island. No bands really come to the island. It's a very large event if a big artist were to ever go there. So Michael you started touring first before I did, and you kind of had to learn that it's very different when you live on an island.
When I was 16, I went on my first tour, and then I started realizing how different the island was compared to most of Canada. So
we're not exposed to as much art and
no, definitely not.
At least our music scene.
Interesting. But yeah, because things just can't get there.
Yeah.
But also going from Alabama to an island in Canada, that's a different world. We're in Alabama.
Jacksonville, Alabama. So I lived like
Crazy.
an hour and a half away from Atlanta. Yeah, that was the biggest culture shock. And it was also like very validating to me as a kid because I think I just didn't really fit in with a lot of the very like conservative values of a lot of my friends and their families. But I was really stressed out to move because I already had my little life that I built there. And I was so pissed off that I had to move to Canada because I moved there with my mom because she fell in love with my stepdad who lives on Vancouver Island. And we all had to pack up and go with her. And I was so pissed off. But I remember my uncle who lived in California, he was like, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. And I was like, no, when I'm 18, I'm moving back here. And he was like, no, you won't. So sorry, Alabama. I'm not trying to, be rude to you, but it's tough growing up there when you're 15 and you don't think that, the Lord is going to smite you because like you're a girl and you kissed another girl. So it's nice to get out of there if that's your vibe.
That gave me goosebumps. Your uncle knew.
He
and
knew.
also like going to that island would ultimately change your life.
Yeah, because then I met this guy.
That is true.
How soon after arriving in Canada do you guys meet?
We know the exact date we met because we played a show together.
We met in 2008, and we played a show at a Canvas bookstore. It was like
It was an anarchist bookstore.
It was called Canvas Bookstore, wasn't it?
It's called Camus, the philosopher.
There you go, yeah. So it was an anarchist bookstore. We played a show to like, I don't know, 20 kids in this little shop. And I'll never forget when I first met her.
It was June 11th, right?
It was June 11th.
Yeah, June 11th, 2000.
I think I still have the flyer too.
Yeah, we have the flyer for it.
And it was great. My band was playing. Her band was playing. I'd never seen her before. And her first band had her brother in it, their best friend and everything, and her boyfriend at the time. And I got to watch them play, and I was just blown away. And then we went on after. And
He was 16, and I was like 18 or 19. I wasn't like, wow, that 16-year-old boy is sure gonna marry that guy. I just was like, oh, look at him go. So,
I'm doing it.
Yeah, I just for the record, it was many, many years later that I was like, he's a man. He's a man now.
Time had passed.
Time did pass.
When you're a kid and you're experiencing the difference in culture and lifestyle between two different countries, what is the biggest, most glaring thing that you pick up?
The biggest thing was just realizing that the U.S. is not the center of the universe and is not, the greatest. I feel like at least where I lived, that was what was really like part of my education. It was that like America is the best place on earth. It's the best country in the world. We're better than everyone else. And the world, lives and breathes by what we do. And it's not really important to educate myself on the rest of the world because this is the center of the universe. That's just kind of how I felt there. And then moving to another place and seeing that there's a whole other world and a whole other, reality outside of just what the country I'm from does. Obviously, a lot of stuff does have like the ripple effect by what we do here.
Totally.
Politically and like, just from a economic standpoint. But moving away from there and realizing that there was like disdain for the country I was from and like resentment and a whole other history that I never got to learn, whether it was from like wars or, or something like that. I just always like the America World Police song is like kind of the propaganda that I was fed as a kid.
Meanwhile, we had Blame Canada, so
yeah,
both kind of go, hand in hand.
Remember the Blame Canada song?
Blame Canada, South Park.
Wait, oh yeah, oh my god, yeah, that's
Yeah.
so funny.
So I don't know. There's just like an air of like.
That's so nostalgic. What?
Yeah.
It's been a long
So the
time
Team
since
America
I-
World Police song for me.
Yeah, Blame Canada
And the
for
Blame
us.
Canada song for him.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because, like, one, Canada gives you guys each other, right? And a whole new outlook and perspective. But also the government really supports art. And it's weird. In all the prep that we've done on you guys, we found the figure that you got from the government to even kickstart a tour. I mean, like, they have things that just, like, it doesn't exist here.
Yeah.
That was a whole thing.
It's a big thing to get
Yeah.
that. Like, not every artist gets that. It's very, I would say, 1.5% of artists would get these grants. And unfortunately, we never really took advantage of it because we then, obviously this is a great problem to have, but we then signed to a U.S. label and it took off from there and we could no longer use those resources.
But it did its thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it gave you the money when it needed to create a cultural export, right? Like, the goal is not to hold you in Canada forever. The
Yeah.
goal is for you to sign a record deal in America and for everybody to know that you're Canadian.
Unfortunately for them, that all went down and happened in March of 2020. So when we took that tour and everything, it was like, all right, well, now we're screwed. But Courtney worked really hard to get the first grant. She probably wrote, I don't know how many times you wrote it over, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but I was lucky because our friend Noah, his band had gotten the grant, so he
helped us.
He helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, copy the homework, but make it look slightly different.
So what do you actually have to do to get it? Is it just fill out forms? Is it?
Yeah, you have to like present. It's like you have to present your band. You have
Yeah.
to be like, this is a good investment.
Yeah, because they're
Here's
funding
why.
your touring and stuff like that, recording sessions, all of it.
Yeah,
They're being a label.
yeah, and so
It's so cool.
it's awesome. I mean, having that, I wish I had taken full advantage of it, but I couldn't. But it's not something that's just for small bands. The thing that we did was like a developing artist thing. But any large band from Canada, if they could use it. I mean, technically, like Justin Bieber could still use it if he wanted.
But also, people, may not know this, but like the radio stations and the media are pro-Canadian.
You
So
have
like,
to play 30 3% Canadian content.
Canadian
there.
content.
And that could be either produced by a Canadian, written by a Canadian, performed by a Canadian. I was on the radio all over Canada. It's just really interesting and it's really special. And I think like the U.S. can learn a lot because like we don't have any sort of support, right? Like forget grants, like, you know, everything is very heavily commercialized and money driven. So it's really interesting.
It's kind of like a good way to like have pro Canadian content, like ambassadors. A lot of countries do this because it's harder to break into
Oh yeah.
any sort of, you know, the market is the entertainment industry is the US. So.
When you're a kid and you grow up and you listen to a lot of these bands, like you think that they're like the biggest bands on the planet because they're always on the radio, they're always on TV, but they're all Canadian bands. So like they're required to do X amount of percentage of it, which is great. But it's funny, like later on, you kind of think about it and you're like, wait a minute, like they're doing arenas in Canada, but they're playing clubs in America. Why is that? It's like, well, there's your answer.
But there's something really special to that though,
Yeah.
because then the right ones end up breaking and then cultural export is soft power and it's all like deeply connected. And I know we're talking a lot about home, but it is connected to the album that we're getting in March because
Yeah.
it is about this island that you grew up on.
Yeah, it's like the pull, it's like the gravitational pull back to it, and then the like that's the wave going in, and then there's like the always trying to escape it, like physically and mentally. It's just a constant drive. It's been a constant drive for us since we were old enough to understand what we wanted to do for our jobs and our careers, and we understood what that was at a relatively young age, probably compared to other people.
Yeah, it's so odd because it is such a beautiful place, but I think there is something about it that's like a total bubble, you know? And I think when you realize like, you know, maybe we need to actually play outside of this area. Maybe we need to actually branch out and do stuff in the States or whatever. Those bands are obviously going to be a lot more successful and be able to do more stuff. But a lot of people kind of just feel comfortable in being on the island or just doing Vancouver or something like that. So, and I think the reason why is that it ties in with a lot of themes of the record is that it is just such a incredible place. There's something kind of hypnotizing about it for sure.
Yeah. And I think everyone has those difficulties if they live in a small town. It's like a mental barrier to leave. And then ours is just like, it's like a mental and physical barrier to leave. So it feels like, you know, you can't just drive out a couple hours to go see your favorite artist or a band that you realize is similar to you, and then you can network. Like you have to use a lot of time and money to leave it.
But you do eventually reach a point where you want to go back. Like you yearn the feeling of home.
We've had conversations recently.
Yeah, I miss it. But I think that a lot of people that are artists, like once they move to a place where there's a lot of people that are trying to do the same thing they are, trying to, you know, your ultimate dream is to get to live off of your art and make a living off of art, whatever it is, whether it's like music or acting. So it's nice here because we don't have to like, I feel like when we're meeting people, we don't have to like
Explain ourselves.
explain our goals or validate our goals. And then when you're from, our joke is we call it, how's your little band doing?
Yeah.
They're like, when
Oh,
we're,
you're still doing that?
you know, when we're back there, we have to, you shouldn't have to feel like you're validating yourself, but subconsciously, at least, we're like trying to validate and set like an expectation when we're talking to people of like what it is that we do,
Yeah.
because they don't understand.
By the way, like little band that's nominated for a Grammy, little band that has many albums, little band that I get it. Like,
Yeah. How's your little band doing?
yeah, like what?
Yeah. So then you don't want to in turn, like, who cares if that person thinks that? But there's like
Yeah.
a subconscious care, you know?
Well, I think there was like there was a big driving force there where the attitude is more like when you finally say like, oh, I'm a musician, they go, well, do you play at the bar down the street? And you go, well, no, because in your mind, you're thinking bigger, obviously. And they go, oh. And then immediately that turns into them being like, oh, well, you're not a musician. And they go, well, I can get you a spot if you want. Like my friend like has an in or whatever. So, you know, after a while, once you've been worn down like that X amount of times, you're kind of just like, I'm going to do whatever I can to like make this work,
Yeah.
you know, because like I'm not crazy. Like, I think we can make this work.
Yeah, this type of music too, like the broad metal umbrella, it has this like air of being extremely underground, but then and like a counterculture thing.
Totally.
But the reality is like it's not. It like in ethos, yes, but like we just came back from Brazil yesterday playing a show with our friends' band Bring Me the Horizon. They let us open their show in Brazil, and they sold out the soccer arena to 55,000 people. Like,
It's mental.
I know you had Linkin Park on. It's the same place that they sold
Yeah,
out.
totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, those bands have been around for 30 years and 20 years, but they're still growing, is my point. They're not like a legacy band that's been doing this for 20 years. They've slowly done that. So it's funny because it still feels like an underground thing, and a lot of people, you know, don't know anything about this type of music and think that they just play it in like punk bars.
What
you know?
is it about the sonics of the music that you believe people are attached to?
What do you think? Like, it's
I think a lot of it's like really honest. It's just very to the point. It speaks to a lot of people with how they're feeling, especially like times like right now. And I think there is something with the release of like anger, you know?
like a communal release of
Yeah.
of energy. Like, it's not like just a bunch of people standing there watching a show. It's like
No.
very interactive.
Everyone who was at that show in Brazil like knew what they were there for. They all were doing, like, as you pointed out earlier, it's like they were all on the same drug. Like, it was a whole event. Everything leading up to it, the moment that the first band went on, like when Bring Me finished, like that, you wouldn't find that in any other genre, I don't think.
I think you would, but it's like the physical communal thing. And I
Yeah.
think that's been adopted by a lot of other genres of music artists now, because I think it's cool. That's in this day and age, like there's so much more collaboration. But that you'll find that same vibe in like a 200 cap room in the metal world as you would like at a huge festival where there's 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I think people just really like getting angry together and jumping
Yeah.
around. It's fun.
That, and I think like there is something to that. I think there is something to watching someone else scream
Yeah.
and hearing someone else release the anger that you may be feeling inside. I mean, Dan, you love it.
Census Fail is my favorite band ever.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yep.
They're awesome.
They're great.
They're amazing.
Buddy from Census Fail, I did his podcast a while ago.
But what that's like it's a singing that takes a lot of technique not to just destroy your voice. When do you learn that you can even do that?
I don't know. I think it's like when you're a kid, you're singing in front of your parents, and then there's that, and then there's going on tour and singing for an hour plus every night and having to figure out how to. It's more like the maintenance part that you have to learn. Like you can sing, you can be a little less reserved like in the studio because you can just stop if you're feeling bad. But once you start having to do that day in and day out, and then figuring out how to like balance like communicating like vocally to people, like because I have to do a lot of vocal rest. And then some people are just freaks and they never have to think about that, and they just heal.
Like smoke a pack of cigs and then just go on there and just
When
rip
I
it.
say heal, the same way some people heal faster after they work out. Some people are sore
Yeah.
for 5 days. So some people are just freaks of nature, and I'm very jealous of them, and I covet what they have. And then there's people like me who just have figured out what's like what is the edge of like how much you can exert and how hard you can go without then having your next show suffer. So you can have like a consistent show throughout the tour. You know, I never want to have like the first 2 shows I do great, and then the crowd on day 3, they're not going to get as good of a show because I stayed up too late chatting with people and like having drinks and stuff.
Like, I know I can't do that. I just know it because I'll do it in the studio and I got maybe 5 minutes in me for like every song, and then I'm done. And I
Yeah,
can't
Michael
speak for like a week.
does backup.
So Courtney, you know, she's just always been so phenomenal. Like, I don't understand. She's just superhuman. I don't get it. It's really something to watch, especially tracking. She like maxes out a distressor. Like, it's
Well, you gotta
she's so
explain
loud.
the
It's
distress,
insane.
The distressor for the people.
Yeah, for the nerds out there. Yeah, there's people that can do it quiet. There's people that like have certain techniques where they're like whisper doing it, you know, and she's just so loud. It's crazy.
It's better for people that like the quieter you can do something. It's the same as like an incredible singer, like you know, I know you had like Ariana Grande on, like
Yeah.
like let's say she and I were both hitting the same singing note, she could exude much less force and sustain that note because she has such great control, and then therefore that's better on your voice. Whereas I would have to give everything in my power to hit and sustain that note, and that's not very good for your vocal cords. So it's the same with screaming.
2 questions. Do you see your voice as a muscle? So do you strengthen it? Do you exercise it?
Yeah. And it's all being on tour and being off tour are completely different things. Being on tour is all just about mitigating any strain or injury, which to do that would be to like pretty much to be on vocal rest like all the time.
She pulls out the Microsoft Sam on days off.
I do not.
Hello.
I just
please, I am hungry.
I watch a lot of very mundane Netflix. I mean, I watched all of Suits on this last tour. I watched the whole thing.
Didn't
That's
you
a
watch
lot of
every
Suits.
Marvel movie?
I did one time in order.
Start to finish.
And I'll tell you guys what, season 6 or so of Suits, they start saying the F word.
Whoa.
They start saying the F word.
Damn.
I guess they went on to a different network, and let me
All
just
bets are
tell
off.
you, I was very entertained. But so yeah, on tour is just like it would be like an athlete. I look at it like really bad athletes, like athletes that have knee injuries and they can't really play anymore. That's like what being a musician is. We're like almost athletes if we don't like sing and dance and stuff. We're like an athlete who needs to get their knee drained. Like we're not actual athletes. I don't want to.
No, I understand what you're saying though.
But and then off tour is when you're trying to, it's like off season. You're just trying to strengthen that physically, like working out and stretching and stuff. And then
On tour, she's in bed by like 10.
Yeah. So this is the don't get ready, stay ready thing.
Yeah.
That's like my ideal thing. Sometimes things get in the way of that, especially like the big no-no, which we've been doing for 7 years, is creating music and tracking new songs in our off time instead of just working at like perfecting your show. We always do both things at once, which is not
It's like a balancing
ideal,
act.
but it's just how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the new music ends up fueling the shows, right? And also like increases most likely the venue sizes and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the awesome ripple effect. But Michael just like has this drive to keep making stuff. Like I wonder why. Sometimes I wonder why are we torturing? Why are you torturing us? What is going on? And you feel compelled, right?
I don't know. Do you guys ever have that feeling where like you feel bad if you're not doing something?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like me on steroids all the time whenever I need to write. But like I only have a certain window in me where it's like, okay, I know like once I start, I have like 3 to 4 months and then I'm capped for like a year. So I always try to do that every year for at least like, 3 or 4 months or something like that. And then, yeah, that's it. That's the album.
Can you explain how you divide and conquer in the studio? Are you doing the majority of the writing?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all started in my parents' basement, really. Like, that's been the whole entire thing. Back in 2016, started writing the first EP. But, I mean, it's just me in front of a computer, and it always starts with a riff or a sound, like a loop, and then I just, hopefully by the end of the day, I'll have a song. But that's obviously, like, near the end of the process, I'll be able to do, like, a song a day. But it takes a while to get into that state for sure. But yeah, it's very nerdy, but it's just me in front of a computer. And
I'd like to add not a song a day, a demo a day.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a better way of putting it.
Because then he works on it for like a year.
Yeah, that's true too.
Are you writing from reality or imagination?
It honestly, it just kind of comes out of your hands, and you're playing and you're like, wow, like, there it is. But I only just go off of what I find catchy and what what I think could be like hooky, or I imagine Courtney singing over top of stuff. It's very situational, to be honest with you. But again, sometimes one little loop will inspire a whole part, or actually a lot of the time in our songs, the same repeating sounds happen the entire song. So subconsciously, you're hearing it the whole time. You just don't really know. So like, whether it's the intro, then plays through the verse quieter, and then the chorus is an octave higher. Themes are used throughout every single song that we have. So if you really listen closely, you can hear reoccurring stuff throughout the whole entire thing. But yeah, it all just comes down to the situation, if the riff is good, or I'm relying more on atmosphere and just the loop or the sound in general.
So can you explain a little bit more about how everything is kind of repeating?
Yeah. It all depends on what we're doing. Like if I know that, okay, for instance, we have a record called, an EP called The Fear of Fear. And the goal of that EP was to listen to everything from start to finish. Everything has reoccurring themes. There's stuff that's happening that in song 4 is like the intro of like, song 2. And that kind of coincided with Courtney's themes lyrically when it came to like mirrors and reflections and everything. I just felt like everything needed to kind of wrap where you could end the record and it would be kind of like the start again. You know what I mean? So you could just listen to it on a loop. So once I can find that key thing that needs to be repeated, it's just kind of copying and pasting or sending the sound out through like different pedals. And I actually bought a pedal called the Microcosm, and it's like this white big box, and it doesn't do the same thing twice. So basically I'd send out whatever sound that I wanted repeated through this thing and then record what would come out of it and then just paste it in certain parts of the song, and make some sort of atmosphere. Because the thing is, I think it's really important to have a bunch of, I wouldn't call it white noise, but just things that are happening in the background where it's enhancing what you're listening to, whether you know it or not. It's something about layering that I think is kind of overlooked a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, it's all situational, but that's kind of how I look at it. It's just like, I need to make something where the person doesn't know why they're repeating this part, or the person doesn't really know, what's going on, but it's there.
Are you doing that in Tsunami Sea?
All over it, yeah. The theme with Tsunami Sea is there's a bunch of ocean sounds, even to the point where, like, in our style of music, people will use like ramp ups or sweeps or whatever, as an effect to make like a big bang in a chorus, or like to make a big impact in a breakdown.
Like a riser.
Sorry.
In like EDM music when it's like,
yeah,
ooh.
It's like a build up or whatever.
Build.
Instead, we took like the sounds of waves and stretched them.
That's sick.
Then that would be, the riser into the breakdown. Or a wave colliding would be like the 808, So the whole entire thing is very, very atmospheric in the sense of like nature, which is really cool. Because when we first started the band, the whole atmosphere came from actual Spiritbox sessions that we did and recorded. So I would just be in my parents' basement.
I don't like
Hopefully
that.
It's not haunted anymore, but yeah.
There's some weird stuff happening.
Some weird stuff.
The Spiritbox in the basement. I was like, I'm not gonna be around for that. You can do that by yourself.
But yeah, I would just sit there and just record it, and that was kind of the whole vibe. It was just kind of like, what can I put in here that makes the person just not really catch on to how much is going on. And that's kind of with Tsunami Sea. We're taking that, but we're doing it in the way of nature, which is really cool.
Subconscious stuff.
Very subconscious for sure. Like you wouldn't really notice it.
Yeah, but like that's where genius exists, It's in nuance and the
That's the
tiniest
best
detail.
thing about being in a band with your husband is that if we weren't together, then people would be annoyed that I say that he's like a genius and the best guitar player ever, and he's my favorite musician ever. But because I'm married to him and we're in love, I can just talk shit about that and just be like, he's the best songwriter.
She gets a pass
in this genre. And he shows restraint, but still pours so much into the subconscious part of the record. And anyway, I can just brag about him, and no one is as annoyed as if we weren't a couple.
To be fair, to counter that, when she came up with the whole Tsunami Sea thing and told me about what she thought the concept should be, that's when a lot of that clicked. Where I was like, okay, now we have our theme, so let's just like really go into it and let's push it and see how much we can make something that's not supposed to be musical. So it all just kind of comes down to whatever Courtney's feeling lyrically. So
So can we talk about Soft Spine?
yeah.
I mean, you wrote that record?
Yeah.
It's like very smart. Like I've never heard regicide used in a song ever.
That's all her.
What? That's crazy. Yeah, because you're a poet.
Oh,
So
thank you.
how do those two things combine? Like, I mean, if you're the one sitting behind the computer, how are you like? Are you going in and refining lyrics afterward? Like, what's the process really like?
For singing, it's like melody and pattern first, and then screaming, I would write that more like, I feel like how someone might write like a rap, like it's just more patterns.
So you know you're gonna scream before you write something, or like you.
Yeah, you can just like feel what would be appropriate over that part, and not appropriate like in a boring way, just what like speaks to you, not like in a status quo way, like, oh, you know, you should do that, but just like what feels like authentic to me over that part. And yeah, like always patterns and melodies first, and then I always feel, I think a lot of people write like this. I always say it's like you're trying to reach the top shelf to get like your groceries down from the shelf, like the ingredients, we'll say, that's a better analogy, of the spices up top. And, you know, like if you're short, you can like kind of reach one thing and like start to like scoot it back towards you and grab it. And then you can use that ingredient. And that's how I feel like, that's how I see writing the lyrics. Like one word will jump out because I also think of like phonetically pleasing consonants and vowels. And then that thing that I feel is phonetically pleasing will then determine what word pops into my head. But also if I ever hear a cool thing, like if I read a cool word, I'll just write it down in my phone.
Your notes app is crazy.
I have my notes app of just like cool
Like if the
words.
cops found it, it would be like, is this like a serial killer? Bunch of random ass words.
Yeah, and I am the Zodiac killer. I am the Zodiac killer.
I mean, when we first started, I used to just present full songs to Courtney. And then now we're in a very fortunate position where our producer, Dan Bronstein, who has been with us since the beginning, but he used to only mix the music. We used to send him all the stems and he would mix it. When we started working with him in the studio and he was there to like help guide us and everything, he was like, why are we not including the most important part of the band here? Like, why are we not writing parts around Courtney's voice? Like, we need to be working on, you know, if this part actually works in her key. Like, we can't just force her to do, like, we shouldn't, you know what I mean?
The bathtub.
And the bathtub thing, basically his whole analogy, and he's taught me so much, but his whole analogy was like, look, if you have a bathtub and you fill it up with water and then you get in it, it's going to overflow. But if you sit in it and then you put the water in, you can control, you know, when the water stops. So
Interesting.
that really, you know, sat with me. It did something for me, and it made me rework how I write songs, to be honest, because he was absolutely right. She is the most important part of the band, and not including her on everything sonically and just being like, here you go, have fun, is like huge misstep for sure.
That song in particular is really hateful. I love that song.
I love the
very
intro
hateful.
on the live version. You said this song goes out to everybody I love to hate.
Yeah, it is. It is so. It's so hateful and not like. A lot of our songs are like eerie and spooky or sad, but that song.
It's your hater song.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not someone who likes to have a lot of outward drama, but internally, you know, there's a lot of people that I don't just feel like neutral about in our industry. Like, I have a full-on strong feelings towards them, and that song really made me feel like, you know what, it's like the fantasy of that people have of like the max like stress they could put on someone they don't like. But of course, those things are just a fantasy. You never really, in reality, I don't have that power to, you know, metaphorically, you know, annihilate someone. I don't have that power or leverage in my life right now. But the fantasy of like feeling like you have that power like professionally to like rise above people that you don't like is like very empowering for me. And I hope someday it's not a fantasy, but like a reality. Like the more social currency I have and the more professional currency I have to like make actual changes around who gets to take our nice listeners' hard-earned money and who doesn't, you know. That's kind of like, it's like sometimes negativity like really drives people. I don't know. For some people, it's like being like, everyone thought that I couldn't do this, but I did. And that like can really drive you. And when you don't have like that barrier to entry anymore, you're like, there's nothing to oppose, you know? So I think we've always been like that. Like the feeling of like being an underdog, like can really drive you sometimes. Like it's a really good
I agree.
motivator. So people said I couldn't do it, but I'm doing it, you know?
Totally. Also, like, you can manifest this shit in the record. You know what I mean? You will come in to social currency and professional currency enough to, you know, eliminate those who have terrible, shitty energy.
Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, like we call those people the wait and sees.
Wait and see.
Like where you just know they've like done something awful. And then the ones that have done horrible illegal stuff and hurt people and like are sexual predators in our scene, we call those came and saws. Because we're not waiting and seeing, like we came and they're just there. No more waiting and seeing. So it's like, it's just like that in any industry. There's just so many, it's really, you know, it just kind of like bums you out. Like, cause you're like, these people are being rewarded and forgiven for being awful people. But I don't know. So I think that's why there's like that fantasy in that song of like feeling like I can control those conditions and like have like agency and power. And that's like my goal. I want to have like agency and it's not like unique to our world, you know, but it's not like just the metal world has people in it that I feel like they don't deserve to be in it. But it's like that everywhere, and it's just kind of like a big motivator as a woman. Like, you just kind of want to knock down those people that you feel have wronged a lot of people and like hurt a lot of people.
Putting that into music comes through. Soft Spine.
Yeah, it's a mean song. It's a very mean song, but in a fun way.
Yeah, it's fun to play live.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think about these lyrics and how you're singing them, knowing you're gonna have to do it on tour?
You know, my joke is always that like this is a horrible way to pitch this. I need to come up with a better way to market this. But in the studio, what you're hearing, that's the worst I'm ever gonna to perform something, because that's my first time doing it. So that's my worst performance, as in like, I haven't figured out how to get from this verse to this, like nerd stuff that most people wouldn't notice, like my breath control.
Like the finesse and whatnot.
The finessing. And then after that, I have to like reverse engineer how to pull that off. And I'm never going to do anything that I know I can't physically pull off. Like there's no whistle notes in there, like Cannibal Corpse, like gutturals, because I know I can't do that. But that's like very fun to me. Yeah, is figuring out how to do that live. Then the live version becomes its own fun thing that has a lot of personality and isn't just like trying to recreate exactly what I'm doing on the record. You kind of like, each live version has its own little identity, which I think a lot of artists find really fun to figure out.
You get comfortable with it and you can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, and it's bringing the song to life, you know? Mm-hmm. You want to be able to do that as much as you can in the studio. But if you've been to any live music, there's just something so cool about like seeing the artist execute that live. It's the reason why we're not just listening to it all together, like over the PA. You know, we're like watching someone, whether it's like an athlete or music or whatever, or the damn WWE, just seeing someone do it in front of you is so cool.
It's different.
Yeah.
You talked about things like recurring and patterns recurring. Tsunami Sea and Eternal Blue, they are connected, right?
Yeah. Everything is connected somehow.
It's kind of like the sister album.
Yeah. Sisters, not twins, like eyebrows. Sisters, not twins. Don't zoom in on my eyebrows. I don't like. I was saying this because I was talking to some of our fans on Twitter about this. We don't ever market stuff this way, other than the Fear of Fear thing that we did last year. But really, everything we make is a concept album. I just don't really care to like market that, like and be like this. Hey, everyone, this is what's happening. I would prefer people to make their own assumptions upon listening to it and interpret it on their own, because I just find that more satisfying than like the show don't tell of art.
Yeah, and also it means something different to everybody.
Yeah,
It's all about interpretation.
so they all go together really, because I'm just always, it's like my own little world that I created that I get to pull inspiration from, and never like rehashing old lyrics or something, but there's just always like themes that like just speak to me in my life that I just always like to put in songs. I don't like do it like, haha, there's an Easter egg here. It's just like this band is like one long from the beginning to now. It's like having a little like your own lore helps you have more confidence in like what you're creating, because then you're already building upon a foundation, and you can just put more and more detail into the story of your band, essentially, like the creative abstract part of it, like not just us hanging out, but like us as the musical journey of our band.
Kind of like building a universe,
Yeah, 100%. Like, what role does Black Rainbow play in that? And that's inspired by a film, right?
Yeah, the guy who directed that, he's actually from our island, which is a very big deal. He grew up there. I think he's Italian. Don't quote me on that. But he grew up on Vancouver Island. And so I'm fascinated by his work. He has that. There's another movie he made that's crazy called Mandy. And but anyway, Black Rainbow, I think, was his first thing that he directed. Again, I might be wrong about that. But so that was just like my little tie-in. It's like someone else that probably felt the same way as we did sometimes, of being stressed out of being so close to the film industry in Vancouver but not being there. And I just think that the imagery of Black Rainbow is so cool. So the song isn't about the movie, which is a fascinating, weird art movie that I've only seen a few times, but it very much disturbed me greatly. He's an amazing. I think he wrote the story too, but just that I take, it's like you take and appropriate like imagery, and then you make it your own interpretation. So I didn't write, the song isn't about that movie, but it's like the Black Rainbow is like a writing prompt for me.
Totally.
So I think of those words as like, same if you're writing an essay, they'll give you a prompt. The word is like a prompt for me.
It's also like one of the most pissed off songs on the album. So
Yeah.
the name is fitting.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Are you scared by your own music from time to time?
Yeah, when Michael shows me stuff, some of it's scary as like I would love for people to get to experience some of the stuff you write instrumentally and not with my voice over it, because there's so much like really weird tension and stuff going on in the songs. I think it gives people a subconscious unease in a lot of our more heavy songs.
I think the best compliment you can get from anyone when you show them something is if they make like a pukey face where they're like it's like a scowl where they go. Like it's something that happens when you listen to metal. I get it all the time. I don't know if you do this, but a lot of people listening to metal, if a breakdown is like extremely heavy or something is just really messed up, they'll like that's the only reaction that you can get from it.
My reaction is I always get goosebumps and I have a little smirk on my face.
See,
Yeah.
Like when I'm driving, I have this little smirk. I'm like, okay, that's good.
I do it like if you have a really good dessert and you're like, ooh. So it's like the little stank face, as we call it.
Why did you guys want to bring Jordan Fish in to help on this album?
he actually didn't.
He didn't. Michael did fake Jordan Fish propaganda by accident, and we were really embarrassed because it's like Jordan's so cool and nice and awesome to work with that like you forget that he's a famous person.
Yeah.
And so Michael just like, we went and did some songwriting sessions with him, and Michael posted a picture being like hanging with Jordan. And then all these like
The
metal
internet thinks
news.
he is working on it.
Wait. So I would always just like put something in my story, right? If I've done it all the time with like Zach or Drew or any of these guys. And I just wasn't thinking about the repercussions. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was like, oh, I'm here with my buddy Jordan, or we're making some music. I'll just do a quick little thing. And then that was like the last day. And a few hours later, the first one goes up. Jordan Fish is in the studio with Spiritbox.
He's writing their album.
And
I'm like, Michael Jordan's
oh, shit.
famous.
I was like,
people are excited.
And like at this point, we're driving home, and Jordan's in the car with us, and I'm like, I'm sorry about that, and he's like, oh, it's all right, like just like being super nice about it. And then, I wake up the next day, and it's like, holy shit! It's like, first off, slow news day, so bad luck for me. Secondly, every single outlet is like, Jordan Fish producing Spiritbox's new record, and I felt like such an idiot. I was like, man, this sucks so hard, because like Jordan probably feels extremely awkward and doesn't want to say anything. I apologized to him again. I was like, I didn't think about this. So I definitely learned a lesson there. But yeah, everyone reported on it and said that he was working with us and stuff. And for the record, I would love to.
Yeah,
Jordan
he's
is
awesome.
so talented. The only thing that happened was our timelines just didn't match. So like we did those sessions, then we left for tour, and then he picked up obviously like 2 or 3 records. So he was like, I'm booked. And I was like, well,
But we
this
have
is
our
awkward.
little team. We have our team. We don't change we have our little circle, and it just works. And
Yeah,
we don't need to mess with it.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot from Jordan just hanging out with him for like 3 days.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that for sure.
Yeah, like yeah, you learned a lot.
I learned a
but
lot.
just from a production standpoint, it was really cool to watch him do stuff. He's
incredible.
He's awesome. But Michael did Jordan propaganda by accident.
In the future, I hope that we can work together, and maybe next time I won't post a photo of him in the studio with me.
Well, did you go into those sessions with the intention of making something?
We made some stuff. Yeah, I mean, like,
But I call that dating. Like we're
Yeah.
we're in matrimony with Dan.
Yeah.
He's our
Dan's been
musical
with us,
husband.
Yeah, like I said, like Dan's been with us since the beginning, and before then, my first band did our last record with him, and like I flew down to LA and I sat there with him for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we just did the record together. And from then, I had such a great experience that like 5 years later, when Spiritbox started, and I needed someone to mix and another ear and everything, he was the first person that I hit up. And ironically, he had not done metal. He didn't do metal for about 3 or 4 years. So he had a huge break. So we were the first band for him to be producing metal again back. And he was
He
very,
learned a lot
very-
from pop stuff.
Oh, yeah. So like his vocal production and everything had gotten so much better. And he just had such a great ear. And yeah, since 2017, the first release, he's been on every record. He's been the guy.
He's always believed in us too. We would just laugh it in his face. He'd be like, "When you guys sign to a label, major label, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna do sold out tours." And we would just laugh. We would be like picking him up from the ferry to like we'd like spend all our money to like fly him in, and work with us, and we would just laugh in his face, be like, "You're a delusional freak."
Yeah.
But in the background, there's like the big scary goal you don't want to say out loud, where we're like, we believe that, we want that.
Yeah.
The world domination's like goal that you're embarrassed to tell people.
Are you embarrassed still to share it?
Yeah, if now there's a tide changing where you're like the little scrappy underdog to, being very comfortable in your identity and like actually be feeling like you're really a part of the music industry and being an artist, and that's your only job. It takes a long time to get used to. And then you're like, well, what's my opposition? The opposition now is just ourselves, like writing good music and not messing all this up. And that's just a very weird feeling. Like I think a lot of people are like this, where they consider like informing people about accomplishments as like bragging.
Right.
I feel like you're bragging.
I mean, so much of this is still very weird for me. So it feels even stranger to like, talk about future goals to other people out loud.
Yeah. I've spent more time in my life, working minimum wage jobs at like a cafe and stuff, and Michael delivering pizzas than I have getting to tour the world and make money off my music,
yeah.
you know, and have the awesome life
get
with
it.
my friends and having all these experiences and just climbing the ladder, hopefully to many more rungs. So that part of our life feels more real sometimes.
More normal.
Yeah. And then this is like our dream life, but now it's not a dream. We're doing it.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It is. And it's cool to get to do it together.
Yeah. big
Because
time.
it's one of the worst parts about being a touring musician is having to leave your loved ones at home and like everything like pauses. It's like your personal life always just like pauses and you go off and you do your stuff. And then you come back and you're like, I just missed so much stuff. So it's kind of like always having long distance relatives.
Oh yeah, it's like your personal life pauses, but nobody else's does.
Yeah.
right.
it
They keep
goes
moving.
on.
Oh my God, it's crazy. Funny enough, we got a dog in February, and that's when majority of the recording and writing was happening for the record. So we were home, and when we left in the summer, we left for 6 weeks in the summer, and then we had like a week off, and then we had 6 weeks in America, in North America. And I remember leaving for the first trip and just being devastated that I had to leave my dog. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst. Oh my God. And then
He
later
was
on,
very emotional about leaving.
for
him.
sure, yeah. And then I got in the car, and then in my head, like, you know, this light bulb went off, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, Josh and Zev have to leave their significant others every time, and I'm like this upset about leaving my dog. Like, it's a big reality check because we're in such a unique position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it really helps because we have each other to lean on. And
Yeah.
some other ways it's weird because there's no one at home managing the household.
Yeah.
That pauses
That's
and it
weird.
just pauses.
No, it's just your dog managing everything.
Yeah, she's just she's just
really
you know
good
like
at
the
it.
accountants with like the big like green
Yeah,
visor. She's like doing the little that's what
A
she's
cigar out and coming out of her mouth.
she's landscaping.
Yeah.
But it's that part's weird because we always just feel like we never get like those personal like household managerial things done. But it is like a once in a lifetime thing to get to be on tour and make music with the person you love. It's awesome.
Well, like, do you feel like you make each other better artists?
Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how I help you be a good artist because I can't. But Michael, again, I get to brag about him and he doesn't. He produces our music too, in my opinion. He and Dan, you know, I don't just go in there and lay it down and walk out. Like Michael and Dan help me and inform what I'm doing so much. Like they'll really help me. That's like part of what's really important about having a producer is they give
That
you
guidance,
confidence.
yeah.
Otherwise, you'll just get stuck on something and you never think it's good enough. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have someone else there to be like, this is great.
There's so
to
much stuff
validate
that
you.
there's so much stuff that I would delete or just leave on a hard drive where he would be like, no, that's great. Like, let's just keep moving on that.
We're both very hard on ourselves. I think he's better at like, you're better now. Now you have like that producer brain where
Sure.
you can tell this is great and you'll move on. Mm-hmm. Or be comfortable being like that being where the song is at that point. And then I'm like, that's something that I need to work on. I could cut a record over and over and over again. Like just keep doing more takes and changing it and stuff. Like I'm changing it like till I'm walking in and looking at the microphone. I'm still changing lyrics and doing that.
Courtney definitely makes me a better producer or musician or whatever you want to call it. I mean, she's very honest about when things could be better or how to enhance something, and that's really important to have. Because if you're just like surrounded by yes men, you're not really going to come up with that great of stuff.
We call it the Let's Go producers.
Yeah.
The LA, everyone just sits around.
And you just go, let's go.
Let's go!
Yeah. And you're like, no, I need some feedback here. And they're like, let's
go!
Like, all right. Well,
So we call it the LA Let's Go type. It doesn't really usually yield great stuff
great
for
results. Yeah.
So true.
us. Let's go! And then sometimes that's great.
Let's actually go.
There's a lot, for every Michael and I being like, I don't want that. There's another person that, that gave them the confidence to put something out, and now they have a #1 smash hit song. So
that's true.
nothing wrong with that. It just does it. I need like more criticism. I think.
I've heard you talk about why you don't use live drums because you like to change things until it's released. Is that
Yeah.
the same for this new album, or is there going to be live drums on this one?
We actually did live drums. Zev crushed it. It's the first time that we've actually had enough time to do it properly and to really make it special. And beforehand.
The means to do it well too. Like
That's true, and the budget and whatnot. So much of it's time too, because it needs to be done correctly. But beforehand, like I just do my normal thing and write the drums in MIDI, and then once the song's completed, I send it to Zev. Zev then goes over it and he enhances it and fills. He's got an amazing like ear, and his drumming brain in general is just on a whole nother level. So he enhances it quite a bit, and then this time around, instead of just being like, okay, we're just going to use MIDI. Funny enough, when he tracked it, he had a monitor beside him that had the MIDI going in real time. So he was performing, but he was having this almost like a guide as he was performing it, and that made it really awesome and a much smoother way of doing things, because everything was already set in stone before. We knew what we were going to get because we could just reference the demo. We had done it all in MIDI. And so if there was a part where it's like, does that fill actually go like that? Does that land on the snare or the tom? You can go back and just listen to it. You know what I mean? So I think that the real drums on this record enhance the shit out of it. And I'm really, really happy with how it sounds. It's almost like the real cymbals give it like more of like a wider sound, which is something that I feel like in other records it's lacked. But the thing is you can't replicate real cymbals. That's the biggest thing. The shells you can replace for sure, but the cymbals and the room sound and everything, like the human aspect of it, is so much different. Like the MIDI gets close. It's very, very close, and we're getting closer than we ever have been, but there's something about the real thing,
And Zev can learn anything Michael throws at him in like 5 minutes. He's so good at that.
He's so good. I mean, his audition, quote unquote, for the band was me talking to him on Instagram, doing a FaceTime. And at that point, how old was he? Like 19?
Yeah, and he we had our first FaceTime, and he had to throw it all on the table. He put all his cards on the table.
Yeah, he's like, I'm 19. I was like, okay, can you play the songs?
Now, for context, that means that we're hella older than him.
Yeah, we are, for sure.
I'm 35, going on 36. Michael's 33. And Zev is, we call him Y2K Man.
He was born in the year 2000.
So he's 24.
But his audition was me being like, can you film and record a few songs?
We chose the hardest.
And I went out of my way to choose like the most difficult ones. And he goes, yeah, sure. And like 4 days later, he sends me real, like full on edited multicam videos of him performing them. And I was like, well, you're hired. When can you be here?
Yeah. So imagine his parents. They're like, you're going to go where? You're going to Canada and then going to Europe with the bands, making like $100 a night.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Yeah.
So
bunch of freaks.
we had to FaceTime his dad and so his dad could make sure we weren't like scamming him.
Yeah.
And now, all these years later,
Yeah. It's actually...
It was a scam.
Yeah, it was a scam.
We were
You just
like,
doesn't know it yet.
we were like, hang out with us and like someday we'll make money. But not now. But
soon.
We call ourselves a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah.
Because everyone that has been with us has been there since the beginning when they were not having any financial benefit from us at all. And so that was always our joke. We're like, someday, thank you for your services. Someday, we'll be able to pay you. Someday.
What about Josh?
Oh my God. Josh, how would we even explain? Josh just like, the way that we all became together was like, we're best friends.
Yeah.
We're all best friends.
That whole transition and process was crazy because he is definitely just one of us. Like it's almost like we've known him for ages.
We were recording another EP, and Michael went out to, our manager's known him for like, our manager's first ever tour that he was a merch guy on was Josh's tour when he was in As I Lay Dying. Like this was probably, I don't know, like 2009 or something.
Yeah.
And so, so then I was like, I don't know. What's up with this guy? He was in the As I Lay Dying band. What's his vibe?
What's his deal?
What's up what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Is he in the band? What are his thoughts on some things? And so Michael went out and had coffee with him and was like, you got to meet this guy. Do you mind if he comes in the studio and like meets you while you're tracking?
Courtney's like, ugh.
And I was like, oh God, okay, whatever. And then I was like, let's like go on a date with him. Like, let's all go out with him to dinner. And I'll like really like what's the word? Aggressively interview him.
Grill him.
Grill
Grill
him.
him.
And being like, what's your deal, dude? And oh my God, we just like, I'm so happy that we did that because I learned so much about him in one. It was basically like old people that have been through a bunch of divorces. Like they don't mess around when they go on dates. They're like, do you want kids? Because I don't want kids. Do you want to do this? Because I don't want to. We need to get that out of the way now. I'm old. I'm not messing around. Like we're either in this or we're not in this. And that's kind of like how we all got together. And the timing was so amazing because aside from him being like so talented and such an incredible singer, he came into our lives like at a time where we were so stressed out, had so much pressure on us. Mm-hmm. It's our first time going to Europe with the band. We were playing all these shows that were way too big for how little practice we had, how small our crew was, like, and also just so hard on ourselves. And he's already been through this. And so just having someone like be a part of us to like reassure us and be like, guys, this is really special. Mm-hmm. Take in the moment that you're having. Like, this is incredible. Like, he's like, having all these people at this show in the middle of nowhere as a routing show in Europe is cool because we're like, oh, there's only 600 people here and this place could take 900 people. And he would explain to us like the context, be like, guys, this is unique that you're able to get all these people here during festival season with no marketing.
He's got a lot of wisdom that, we didn't have at the time and still don't have.
Yeah, we're still learning a lot.
Still learning a lot.
So it's nice to have him there because he's been through all this and then some. So he's helped us so much.
On top of being an incredible singer and an incredible bass player, like he just knows a lot that we don't. And so he checks us sometimes in a positive way, or he'll be like, no, I don't think like that. It's been a great fit. And he actually has a lot of his voice on this record too.
I was going to ask, is he singing a lot on this record? Because I know fans were asking about that.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's just it's so awesome having someone to support you live because I've never had that like that. Just to be able to know that someone else can come in and like sing one line while you're maybe recovering for 5 seconds. And really, I think Josh can probably sing higher than I can. Like I can probably sing lower than him and he can sing higher than me. And so on this record, I write stuff for my voice, but then now I've never had like another full-on vocalist in the band. So I wrote stuff thinking of Josh's voice. The way he can hit a note versus the way I can hit a note is so different. He has a really powerful voice.
Yeah.
And also he had to kind of adapt and sing like me. I guarantee you there's some parts on the album that people will think like it's me doing my own backup harmonies, but it's Josh because he's like singing in a softer way, like a way that I feel like a lot of people haven't heard his voice. Mm-hmm. But I cannot wait to sing live with him. Like I always want to go over and do like the Bruce Springsteen like back-to-back thing with him. Like I love singing with him. It's so nice. And I have him so loud in my ears. And he's been with us now for like 2 years, but still every time like he stings for the first time, I'm just like, oh, wow, listen to that in my ears so loud. I'm like, that is just incredible sounding.
This is special because the relationship that you have with the other band members, like that musicianship it's the bedrock of everything.
Oh, they're so great. And I like that people don't think about that when they think about our music. Like, I don't think people listen to our music being like, oh, the paradiddles of the drums, oh, the bass, the guitar, the 6/14 timing. But we're nerds. Like, our music is nerdy as hell. Like, there's a lot going on that we don't want it to distract from like someone enjoying the song itself. But we're a bunch of nerds. We love weird, nerdy prog stuff. Mm-hmm.
And the new album's on the way. Tsunami Sea.
Yes.
It's coming in March.
I can't believe it. Like, it makes it real when you announce it.
It's been like a secret on our phone for so long, like just like in a folder. So when we announced it, I was like, oh my God, we're like getting so close to everybody hearing it for the first time. It's
always this big climactic thing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why I think a lot of artists probably really enjoy just dropping an album sitting back and seeing what people think. But, the rollout is just this huge climax, and then getting to, like, with social media, getting to, like, actually see people react to it, talk about it is one part, and then going, you know, day one of the tour and playing it for people is like this whole other thing. So
It's like when it becomes real.
yeah.
You know?
So all those different things
Interesting.
are like, those are like you can't like quantify them sometimes, but they're like the slightly more tangible part of like connecting with your fans.
Right now, it's not. It's real, obviously, but it's not like I haven't been able to experience it with people yet. That's why 2020 was so hard, especially with Eternal Blue, because it was all just on the internet. It was behind a screen. So when we finally got out of that and started playing these songs, like, that was a whole another thing, and being like, there's so many people here, and like, why do they know the words and stuff? You know, like,
Yeah.
bizarre.
So now
Very
we're more
bizarre.
comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, now I feel confident I can put the microphone out and like someone will say the words.
Someone
back.
will.
Somebody. They might not be in front of me, but there's somebody. And so I'm really looking forward to having that with this. I think it's like those little phases, the announcement, the thing coming out, and then the live are like artists. That's like our little mecca each time, like that we crave and we love and we look forward to.
As the songs roll out, they'll be waiting for you on Amazon Music. We're going to put a link below. What are you thinking?
I think we should talk about the second Grammy nomination.
Oh, huge. Can you tell us the story about Cellar Door? Behind Cellar Door?
Oh my God. Yeah. Like you saying that, I made me be like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's real.
Cellar Door was a song that was laying on a hard drive for a long time. It was the last song that we wrote during the Rotoscope era.
Which was in like 2022. We put out a little E
2022.
EP.
But the thing about it was we never got through the middle of it. I had the intro, verse, and the chorus. But me and Dan were just like sitting there scratching our heads being like, what the hell do we do here? And so when we started doing everything for the Fear of Fear, I went through like all the stuff that we hadn't used, because there's just like a bunch of files just laying around. And that song in particular, I was always like, there's something very special about this, because it is just so evil sounding and it is just so heavy.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh when I hear it. It's kind of like what you were saying before. It's rather a stank face, or you laugh at it. And so when we cracked it open again, it just kind of came really, really quick. The middle part of it with the breakdown and everything was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I think that once I heard everything come together and the intro and how we were fading it out and the outro and stuff, it really set up the entire EP nicely. So I was like, okay, this is going to be the theme of the record sonically. It's all going to blend into one another. So that one was the most important one in my opinion, because it had sat dormant for so long. And that happens sometimes. Like, sometimes music just doesn't get finished for years, but then it just ends up on your newer record because you like finally crack the code on how to finish it.
I wanted it to be the first single.
Yeah. And to me, I'm very proud of the fact that that song in particular is nominated for the Grammy. I wasn't expecting it whatsoever, don't get me wrong, but it's awesome that heavy of a song is nominated for the Grammy, for sure.
And when Michael made that, I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a screaming chorus that was like really slow?
Yeah.
Because you don't really hear that, but it's like, it's really slow.
It's supposed to be hard to listen to. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, okay, this is really cool. This got nominated, because a song that's supposed to be hard to listen to should not be nominated for a Grammy.
But both years that we were nominated, like, I know everyone says this, I had no idea, but like, you kind of know.
Yeah.
Like you know, the first year, like, you know, we did like a for your consideration thing, like ad campaign, like to hopefully people notice our song. But then we didn't know, like, we don't wake up for the nomination announcements. Like, we're asleep. We would never wake up and get all done up and take a video of us seeing it.
Yeah, set up like the light and everything.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And the night before, this is a fun fact, the night before that first one, I went out with Josh's wife and one of our other friends, and I got a little sauced up. And I came home at like 2 or like 12 at night and woke Michael up, and he was like, the Grammy nominations are announced tomorrow. And I was like, so who cares? I'm not waking up for that. Are you kidding? We're not getting nominated.
Like, who cares?
Yeah. And he was like, I think we're going to get nominated. And I was like,
I was just trying to be positive.
And I was like, no, he had a feeling. And I was like, no, we're not. And I am so sure of that. Tell you what, if we get nominated, I'll buy you a dog and I'll train the dog.
We have the same bank account.
Yeah. But he's always wanted a dog. I was like, and you can name it Spaghetti because you've wanted to name your dog Spaghetti for like 10 years. And you can do that. And then we got nominated and I was like, oh my God. So we got Spaghetti. Her name's Getty. And then this year, because we've been together for 12 years. We never got a dog because it would be irresponsible. And now we have it. Now we can financially, we can get her a babysitter. Yeah. And then this year, the joke was if we got nominated again, we have to get the second dog, which is going to be named Ravioli.
Oh, great name.
And I was like, so I didn't think we were going to get nominated, but I wasn't confident enough to do the same binding contract and have to get another dog.
It wasn't a binding contract, so you're fine. But
that was shocking. Both times our manager wakes us up at like 7:30 and he goes, hey, I just got
this
tip.
time I woke up and Sean, our label head, he texts me and goes, just sends me the link. And he goes, are you awake? And I said, unfortunately, yes. And then he goes, you should click this. And I was like, why? And then literally like 2 seconds later, our manager FaceTimes us and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
And so,
but this time we had a little bit more of a head start of knowing, so we could like call all of our family. And we were all together the night before, and Zev was flying home and he didn't have Wi-Fi. And so I had to call his parents and be like, get up, you guys tune in like right now. Your son's nominated for a Grammy. And so I think all of us knew before Zev did. And then we were so excited because usually there's like maybe the one little band that gets in there with all the legacy bands. And this year our friends in Knocked Loose and Poppy also got nominated, and Gojira. We were freaking out. Like, we all knew Metallica was going to get nominated, and Judas Priest rightfully is nominated. So those are big heavy hitters. But to have like the two little guys in there, that I think we freaked out more about.
I was so stoked for them.
We were screaming when we saw their name.
Yeah.
And I'm the person that told Poppy that she was nominated. I was like, congratulations. And she was like, what?
I love her.
We love her.
She's the best.
So I think that is so cool that we all get to go there together and do that. Like, winning, obviously I'd love to win, but it's one of those moments that like, no matter what, it's cool to be there with your friends.
And you would be the first female to win Best Metal Performance.
Yeah.
How sick would that be? And
that award's been around since I was born. The year I was born,
That's
1989. Crazy. So it pisses me off every year I get older and no woman's won. So now there's more chance than ever. And
sorry to cut you off, but I want you to get it so badly, not just for my own personal gain, obviously, but I have watched, since 2008, I've watched people in small little community halls and stuff yell at her and basically like throw stuff at her and write her off as a musician.
Pour beers on me.
Pour beers on her, just do horrible shit to her. So if it is to happen, I would be so happy.
Because
just
I was a girl and like that. And so, and I do the asterisks, like Hailstorm won it. So Lizzie Hale has won, she is the only woman to have won a metal Grammy. But it was for a very brief time, it was a metal and hard rock performance Grammy. So it technically, they had more types of bands in there, and then they changed it back to the original just best metal performance and a rock performance separate. So you got to give it up to the queen, Lizzie Hale. But I want to win. I want myself or one of my girls to win best metal performance because no girls won, and I want one of us to freaking smash the ceiling.
It's time.
It's time.
It's been time.
Is that because there aren't a lot of women singing metal music, or they haven't been respected in metal music?
Both. It's really hard to get into. It's not because girls are like, ew, metal. It's just really hard to get into a system where, as a fan or as an artist, people are really don't respect you, maybe are a little bit annoyed that you're there. I know it's more normal now, but when I started out, like, the women that I looked up to and that I really liked in the metal world, like, it was a lot tougher for them. People question you even having the ability. You kind of have to just do the classic, like, you got to work harder to get half the respect type thing. And when you feel like no one wants you in a community, you'll go find your own community usually. So I think that if things were more open and there was less, sexism and misogyny and stuff, then you wouldn't have to deal with that. But that's just kind of how it is in any male-dominated field. There's no difference in art. It's any male-dominated field, you get questioned more if you're not male.
Sad but true.
Yeah, like the Metallica song.
That.
Shout out to Metallica.
Can you explain your relationship with Megan Thee Stallion?
Well, my actual relationship is that I'm her number one fan. I'm a hottie. I've been a fan of Megan since 2018. She's really, like, I think the first artist that I've ever started liking and then watched them take off. Like, you remember, like, in 2019, I was like, Michael, look at my artist.
Showed me her for the first time.
Megan, she's selling out, like, college things, and all these people are screaming the words. Like,
yeah.
I was always really excited for her. And I'm a number one hottie. I'm such a huge fan. And so I couldn't believe it that we got to work with her.
Yeah, like how does that happen?
Our managers know each other. They both work for the same label. And so I think she wanted to make a rock remix, and I'm going to put my foot in the door. That could be like a nepotism thing. I don't care. I will just burrow past everyone else and take that, because I'm such a huge fan, and I just understand her, and I'm so passionate about her succeeding. So the fact that she let us do that remix and then a new song, an original song.
Yeah.
The rap world is very different. The hip hop world and the pop world is different. They move fast.
Like within 3 to 4 days. You know what I mean?
They have, because they have access to that.
Yeah. If they get a final, they'll just put it on Spotify in like 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, and they have the confidence that I think that sometimes I guess we don't have, where they're like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Put it out there. It's very spontaneous and fun and creative. So yeah, those things came into our laps just as quickly as we put the songs out.
How do you approach writing an original? Like, where does that even begin?
Well, Megan already had like Bankroll, her producer, make a song with her, and her like kind of doing screaming vocals on it. And then they gave us all the stems for that. So we never like got in the room together. They just give it to us, and then
we got in the studio, and there wasn't really any prompt. There wasn't much instruction, and they were basically like, we want to make this like heavy and like make it a metal song. And so originally me and Dan cracked it open, and we took out a lot of stuff because we just felt like, look, it's such an aggressive song. They're yelling the whole time. Let's like throw 8 strings in this and just make it stupid heavy. And so sonically, in order to do that and to make it all match, we had to take some of the elements of the beat out and some of the melodies and whatnot. And so we sent it back, and then they were like, yeah, this is great. Didn't think much of it. Afterwards, we're like, oh, that's such a relief that they loved it. Like, can't wait for it to come out. And then we went on tour, and about a month later, they're like, all right, here it is. And they sent it back, and it was completely different. So I was like, oh shit, it's completely different. And so they were like, yeah, we're open if you want to make changes or whatever. And so we were probably, I don't remember where we were, but we were playing a show, and they basically were like, you can make changes, but you have like a day to do it.
So Michael was on the tour bus, like,
so on the bus, I retracked everything, and then sent it over to Dan. Dan then mixed it, sent it back, and then it was out 2 days later. So
yeah, it's crazy.
They move quick. It's really crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're just busy because they're like actually busy people. You know, like we have one thing at a time. People like that, she's a superstar. She has 1,000 things going on at a time.
And if it's going to be a hit, it's going to find its place in culture, raise its hand, and then they kind of run with it and like turn it into
she
more.
Just knows.
It's like a different sort of system. Like, you know, like marketing is just dropping a song.
Yeah.
Right? It's very different. Like you don't need to, you're not acquiring audience necessarily.
No, you're giving your fans what they already crave.
Yeah, and if something raises its hand, then like the team takes it and runs, and radio and everything else falls into place.
That's why we were so thankful, though, because that team and Megan is so sure of herself and so confident in the music and stuff. So for her and her team to be like, do you have anything that you'd like to add, or do you want to change anything or whatever on her song? It really means a lot for sure.
She's one of the most genuine, incredible, like really genuine people, but also so smart and just simply incredible, and has such a great heart, and everything she does for her community. Like, there's very few people like her. She's amazing.
We got to go to her show in LA, and I got to meet her, and it was just so amazing that, think of, how LA shows like the most crazy show. All the industry people are there, and you're so exhausted. You get off stage, you have to meet all these people and shake hands, and all your friends are there. And, I would never presume that she would even see me that night. But she, I think, knows that I'm a huge fan. And how she treated her fans on that tour made such a lasting impression on us. She is just so amazing to them. She made everyone there feel like they were so important and a community. And she'd recognize them. She'd be like, you were at this show, and you told me you were going to college. Did you go? And she'd come over and talk to them, and the girl would be like, I'm graduating. And then she just was bringing them all up on stage and just loves them genuinely. And then as a surprise, her manager came and got me, and as she went off stage, she came and he said, Courtney's going to be here. And she came and gave me a big hug and talked to me for a bit. But that just, like, I don't think she did that because she's just like, yeah, I'm schmoozing. Like, she did that because she heard and knows that I'm such a huge fan, and she wanted to, like, give me a special experience. And just the thought that she would even be able to be thinking about that, have, like, the bandwidth to do that nice thing for me and make me feel special.
But to be fair, you're collaborators, you're peers.
I know, but like the day of the LA show, I'd be like, everyone leave me the fuck alone.
No doubt.
Like, don't talk. Like, it's just a really crazy day. You've been to shows on Industry Day in New York and LA. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Just the fact that she took time out of her day after just getting off stage to come let me know that she appreciated us. What a night, like, just a very nice, thoughtful person. I'm just so impressed with how thoughtful she is, and it made me really rethink, like, any, taking for granted people that support you and care about your music. Definitely a big, very influential, that show was very influential on us, of how special and important we need to show our fans that they are to us. So very big impression on us when we went to that show.
Well, you can listen to the record. It's waiting for you. The song with Megan plus the remix. It's on Amazon Music. And as Tsunami Sea is rolled out, we'll have all the songs because we'll get more before March, right?
Oh, yeah. I want one more. I don't want too much. But one more. But, we've got to let these ones simmer a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we need to just have a very brief hibernation of like a week.
Yeah, just a week or two.
Just a week.
That'd be nice.
Maybe 10 days.
Healthy.
Brief. Never actually works, though. We're very bad at having boundaries with that. Too many very blurred lines.
Yeah, that's true.
But we need to hibernate just slightly, and then, we love visuals, so we want to be able to give another song a really cool music video and share it with everybody.
Sweet. We're here, waiting to be fed.
I hope you're hungry.
Hope you're hungry.
Hope y'all are hungry.
I could be completely wrong, but are you guys more inspired by pop music than metal? Because the way you've been talking about these pop artists, and then you see the way you move sometimes, it looks like you're inspired by pop musicians and things like that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I hate to say it, but there hasn't been a ton of metal music that's come out recently that I'm really gravitating. It pulls me in, really. Like, I'm listening to a lot of older stuff that I used to listen to, and I mean, there's like set things that I think I'll always listen to, but I think I'm more so just on a kick of, like, right now I'm listening to like Andrew WK. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just
what?
Yeah, like whatever's
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Sick.
like whatever's the polar opposite, really. And obviously I know that's like not the best reference because it's still like heavy to a certain point. But yeah, I think you have to listen to things outside of your genre for inspiration, because otherwise it's just going to kind of become stale. You know what I mean? If you
There's
just kind of
so
are
much great
rehashing so
stuff.
much, there's so much good, good songs out. There's so many good songs out there, and I mean, how many songs are released on Spotify every day? Something like 50,000, 100,000 or something. I'm probably even way off from there, but it's important to kind of have a fresh ear.
Yeah. I love Meshuggah. I love Ethel Cain. I love Kendrick Lamar. It's
Casey
like
Musgraves.
there's just like I'm like weary of someone who's like, I only listen to metal. I'm
There's
like,
something wrong there.
But I think like you're if that person's making metal music, they're not doing what's best for the genre, right? Because like if you're listening to a host of different artists, you're taking the best qualities of those people, hopefully, or things that you gravitate towards with you and making it. And I think in return, you end up getting a more mainstream product. Does that make sense? Like,
Oh, for sure.
things that tap into larger trends that then allow for relevancy for the entire genre.
I mean, with pop records especially, the production is so clean.
that's the thing that I think you gravitate towards the most. Is production stuff.
For sure. I mean, even on the record, there's a song on there on Tsunami Sea that's very much referenced by a pop artist, like vocally. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think we would go there if we weren't fans of that type of music and that type of production style. You're not going to find that in metal for the most part. So it's about incorporating those things to keep things fresh. You know?
I think other genres do that too. Like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you were to talk to any pop artist or R&B artist or hip hop artist, like I think you'd find that they also love some pretty niche or unique different genres of music too.
Lots of rap artists love metal.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
You can even see it in their live shows. You know.
Yeah, if you watch a lot of hip hop stuff, like their live shows, there'll be like actually really heavy guitars in there.
Yeah.
And fire.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I say appropriate the genre of metal. Appropriate it. Like I love that. It's like bringing a cool aesthetic
It's awesome.
to other people who have never really seen it.
Tsunami Sea is waiting for you. There's a link below. And all of Spiritbox's music is on Amazon Music. Click the link. Try it out. You good?
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out.
Thanks so much for
Thank
having us.
you. Sorry, our stomachs are grumbling on
Yeah.
the mics. You're gonna have to.
Too much coffee.
We didn't eat enough because we were in a hurry. So you're gonna have to edit out the grumbles.
Yeah.
You guys, there's pastries waiting for you. Full circle.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Oh
Eat
my
a
God,
pastry.
the croissants.
Yes, you were looking. Spiritbox, everybody. Thanks for hanging.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
The grumbles are just
Grumbling.
grumbling and fumbling.